Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to this event. First of all, I'll just say, whenever I see the word keynote attached to the word speech, I worry that it's going to be a very long speech. So I promise I won't speak for a very long time, but it's very helpful for me. I'm sure it's very helpful for our friends from the police and the other agencies, groups of magistrates who are represented here to hear these things firsthand. And I think the group that you set up, Rael, and the fact that you're bringing people together across communities as well is really very, very important and very helpful in helping to communicate the problem. And certainly my regular connection with the police, I always raise these concerns. I receive a lot of intelligence from the community, whether it be people I bump into in Sainsbury's or whether it be people emailing me or whatever. So a lot of stuff comes into my office, and we've been passing it on and looking at your graphs with the different levels of activity over the months. Certainly, I think those kind of spikes of crime, and in particular the spike in burglary, is something that I was fully aware of and feeding into the police. One of the things I did want to say, looking at both the change from month to month and the way in which levels of crime vary between different areas, I think it does tell you something about the nature of the problem. And I will defer to our friends from the police, who of course are professionals, but I think in many conversations over the years that I've had with senior police officers locally, of course we do grow some of our own criminals, but we also are very close and very accessible to some other areas. So we have some criminals who will take it from time to time that they will commute into this area thinking that it is a relatively affluent area and that they've got some nice cars they can try to steal, or they can break in, or they give a horrible story that we just heard about trying to steal jewellery actually from you while you were wearing it. So that's one issue. We sometimes have people just settling on this area and deciding that they're going to have a go at us. And I think it's often the case that it is a relatively small number of people who are committing very large numbers of these crimes. So I can remember years ago going to Altrincham Police Station and sitting with the CID and them having a book of mugshots of some of their they actually had their top 10. And they would say, if we pick up one of these people and get them put away, crime in this area will drop by 15% or more, some of them very prolific. So one of the things I just say in support of the police, whilst visible policing is always reassuring for us, it isn't always the most effective way of catching criminals, and sometimes the intelligence-led policing, which is looking at patterns of crime, predicting where things are going to happen and trying to pick up repeat offenders, can be the most effective thing to do. The second point I'll make, which is really a difficult one from my point of view as well as yours. Whilst we can look at these figures and we can hear some of the really unpleasant stories of people who've had these awful incidents, it is also true that this is one of the safest parts of Greater Manchester. And this does create a problem in the allocation of resources, because the police, when they're looking at where they're going to put their officers, can look at numbers in Salford, say, which are dramatically greater in scale than those. And it's not unreasonable they're going to tilt their resources to where most crime happens. But that's where I think these kind of events, the kind of Be Safe, Feel Safe groups that you set up, the WhatsApp group, all of the efforts to make sure that I and the councillors here and the police are hearing what is going on are so important. Because what we've got to do is keep making our case. We've got to make sure that the police are fully aware when there is a problem, that they know when there is an increasing level of crime, and that we get that resource promptly so that it is responding to the challenge. So please continue to feed into me what's going on. I know the councillors here would welcome that as well. We can pass it on to the police. We can make the case to the mayor, who is also the police and crime commissioner, we need to make sure that that is fully understood, that they can't just say, oh, Altrincham, Sale, Elbowden, they're leafy, nice areas, nobody needs to worry about those, we'll put all the resource somewhere else. We've got to make sure they know that not only is there sometimes an increasing and unacceptable level of threat, but also, I think, particularly important that we hammer home how deeply unpleasant and frightening some of the types of crime can be. This increase in violence associated with burglaries, I think, is one of the most worrying things we need to hammer home. So thank you again for inviting me. It's already been very useful listening to what's been said, and I will look forward to hearing more as the event goes on. And I apologise in advance. I've also been asked to say something right at the end. So you'll hear from me again later.
Thank you.